Are we live? Hello. Hi. How's everyone doing? So I haven't been on in a while. I wanted to pick up where we left off. Also, if you can, when this goes to YouTube, when you see it, if you can just hit likes and hit subscribe if you don't mind. So that would be really nice. So anyways, without further ado, we were talking about basic music theory, the fundamentals. I like to break it down into stuff that's relatable, like you got your scale, your major scale. You have 7 notes in a scale, 7 days in a week. These are all about the grand design, I didn't create this stuff, it just happens to be. So there's 12 months in the year. There's 12 notes in music if you go chromatically up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's really important numbers that relate to stuff in life and in mathematics. Basically like basic arithmetic and some geometry, but we won't get into that. But the number 7, it's a big number. Number 3, the number 12, the number 5. And so what I want to pick up from where we left off was we talked about the modes and how there's 7 notes in the scale. Each one of these notes has a chord built off of it. So if there's 7 notes, there's 7 chords. Your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord are major chords, meaning they're bright chords. That means the rest of them are dark chords or minor chords. So that's your 2 minor, your 3 minor, your 6 minor, and your 7 minor flat 5, or diminished. The 7th degree of the scale is always a diminished or minor flat 5. The rest of them are just regular minors. So your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and 5 chord are major chords. Your 2, your 3, your 6, and your 7 are minor. The 7 is a minor flat 5. Okay. So why is it designed like that? Well, I don't know, but there it is again. We have 3 chords that are major chords, and they basically make up pretty much 90% of what most music, diatonic music, meaning notes that are relative to the key center, that don't divert away from it, that are fixed into the key center. Key center meaning the stuff that are in the 7 notes. So each 7 note are part of a key center. You said there was 12 notes in music chromatically. That means that there's 12 key centers. 12 key centers of each having 7 notes of that. So there's quite a bit of them to learn, but they all connect. The point is that this is not just about memorizing something or filling your head with a bunch of stuff that you have to memorize. This is really about finding how music connects to different things, how it's connected to a sort of numeric system. And which brings me on to the next thing. So each one of these notes has a chord built of the 7 notes. There's 7 chords. Now we use what is called the Roman numeral system for this. The capital Roman numerals are major, so that means your 1, your 4, and your 5 are capitalized Roman numerals. The rest of them, the minor ones, are the lowercase. So, and I'll show that in diagram. Right now we're just breezing through concepts, okay? So I wrote a couple bullet points down. I need to talk about intervals a little bit. I did talk about it. Intervals, this is the most important thing to me in music, is really understanding the intervals. So an interval is the distance from one note to another. So from C to D is a major second interval. It's a second, right? From C to E is a major third, is a third. From C to E flat is a flatted third, right? Or diminished third, right? So, and so on and so forth. From C to G is a fifth, or they like to call it a perfect fifth, right? Okay, so And I'll get on to why I think the intervals are most important as we go on. So there's a thing called chords. You've heard of chords. But we're going to deal with the first of what are called triads, which is a chord also, but it's a triad, meaning it's made up of 3 notes. It's got a root, a third, and a fifth. So there's 3 notes in this triad. There's 3 different ways to play this triad. I can play it with my root here in that position, the root position, or I can put the root up here and play it like this, and that's called your first inversion. Then I can take this third and put it up here, and that's called my second inversion. So there's root, first, and second inversion. Those are 3 different ways to play a triad. Now, why something is called a chord is because a chord, all a chord is a triad with more notes. So if I play this triad and I add a major 7th on it, this is called a C major 7th chord. It's no longer a triad, hence there's more than 3 notes, okay? So that's all that is. And by the way, if you just play 2 notes, that in music's called a dyad, which we don't really talk much about, but really what that is your dyad is your interval, is the first time that you get to see intervals, a distance between one note to another. So that's what that is. Hopefully you're following. All right, so now we talked about chords and triads. Now major and minor. All that is so if I take a C chord, which in the key of C is my 1 chord, and we talked about this, your 1, your 4, and your 5 chord are major chords. They're bright. So what makes that a major chord is the distance of intervals between your root note and your next note, which is your third, is 2 whole steps, meaning there's a note in between that's a half step, and this is another half step, and this is another half step, and this is another half step. So it's actually from C to D is a whole step, from D to E is a whole step, so it's 2 whole steps. So major triad is made up of your third being 2 whole steps from your root, okay? Now what makes it minor is a step and a half. So you're flatting that third. But in the key of C, there's no sharps or flats, so in order to play the notes that are relative to this key center, which is no sharps or flats, no black keys, you don't find your minor chords till you hit your 2 chord. And if you look at your 2 chord, the distance between your root note of your 2 chord and then your next note is a step and a half. That's minor. If it was 2 whole steps, it would be D, and that's not what it is relative to the key center. Okay, so that's the difference of major and minor chords, or triads. Then it talks about, we move to what is relative major and relative minor. What does that mean? Okay, so the key of C has a relative minor, so it's got its opposite, right? So where's your relative minor? It's off your 6th degree. So if you count up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, C, D, E, F, G, A. So A minor is your relative minor of the key of C. Okay? So A minor, relative major is C major. Hence your relative minor and relative major. Just like if we were in the key of G, the key of G has 1 sharp, F sharp, right? So G would be my 1 chord. So my relative minor would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, E minor. So in the key of G, my relative minor would be E minor. And it's always that. It always works on this system. And this is where stuff is part of like what I call the grand design. I didn't create it. It's there already. It's kind of mysterious and mystical. It's kind of inspirational. This is where you should find inspiration from learning basic music theory. And I'm not talking about, we're not delving into this like really, really heavy stuff yet. This is just the basic fundamentals. This is really all you really need to know if you want to stop from learning music theory. If you just learn the basics, that's good enough. There's a lot in there. So, all right, so we talked about major and minor, relative major and relative minor. Now, I wanted to talk about what is the basic thing in music that when we learn music, the first thing we learn about music before we learn any theory is that music is made up of 4 basic things. It's made up of melody, harmony, rhythm, and form. So those 4 components are the basic things and structures and concepts of organizing chaos, if you will. Essentially what we're doing in music is organizing chaos. Because things could have no order at all, but we're making some order out of it. Sometimes you don't want order, sometimes you want it to be chaotic, But that's the great thing about music, is you kind of ebb and flow between this. So again, music is made up of 4 components: melody, harmony, rhythm, and form. And what that means is every piece of music has that in there. And all melody is the notes of that diatonic key center. Diatonic meaning the notes belonging to a key center, right? And what is harmony? The harmony is a consequence of melody. It's just what supports your melodic structure. So if you're playing a melody, there's those 7 chords in your key center that can support that melody. And usually, if it's a good melody, it revolves around your 1 chord, your 4 chord, your 5 chord, or variations, substitutions of those chords. And we talked about that before. The substitutions are your 1, 4, and 5. In this case, in the key of C, it's C, F, and G. Each one of those chords has a substitution. Like a substitution for my 1, my C is A minor, like my relative minor, right? That makes sense. A substitution for my 4 chord, F, is D minor. It's my 2 chord, right? A substitution for my 5 chord is E minor. And then your 7 chord's the only one left, and that's kind of like real dissonant, and we use it as a passing chord a lot of times. So if I want to go from A minor to C, instead of jumping to C, I'll walk up. Right? Or if I want to walk down, same thing. And you have that diminished or minor flat 5 chord all over the place. If I want to walk from D minor to E minor, I can use a diminished chord walking up. Right? Or F to G. Right? So there's use for diminished chords in that way. There's a whole bunch of uses for them melodically too, but we'll get into that later. Okay, so we learned all that stuff about what music is made up of: melody, harmony, rhythm, and form. Now the rhythm part of it is very important, because you might have a melody, but if it's just a real static melody and you don't have any rhythm in there, I could play, or I could play it like this, right? Or I could play, or okay, and then the form, that's rhythm, and then the form is how you organize all this stuff. So you want to have stuff make sense and have some cohesiveness, It's not an irony that we fit stuff into kind of like patterns. Like if it's something's in 4/4, 4 beats in a measure, quarter note gets the beat, right? We'll get into that a little more too. That there's, a lot of times 4 measures or 4 bars in each phrase of music, that kind of works in that. They'll work in phrases a lot of times. So, and organize that the way. Also, there's ways of writing, lead sheets, which I went over in one of my videos before, talking about how to do a, really good lead sheet that's not complicated, easy to read for musicians. The lead sheet is like a map. You'll have the melody, you'll have the harmony that supports it, you'll have the rhythm in there, and you'll have the form. And the form meaning, you are following a map. So sometimes you'll have repeats and things like that, of that nature. Instead of writing things, stuff that's repeated over again, why write it again when you can write a repeat? It just makes things a lot clearer and a lot more simple. That's a big part of music, is to, is the more it expands, even harmonically in sophistication, the simpler the concepts get, So it expands and retracts, So, all right. Now I want to talk about one last thing, because this is something that I've morphed into a lot in my style, which is called Americopa. I went over that, and Americopa is essentially a fusion of many styles, but not just that, in theories too, of ways that I use rhythm and melody and things of that nature, and harmony. There's a term called Hemiola, which is a thing. The best I can describe it is, if you saw West Side Story, any of you, the Lenny Bernstein, America, da 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 na na. That's in, basically it's a 6/8 rhythm. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2. So it's over 6/8 over 3/4 and over 2. So you're having all these different things happening. So if I was to play Amazing Grace, let's see. So right now this is in 4. So now it's in 3. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3. Now it's in 6/8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6. It's actually in 3 now, because now it's divided into 9. So the point being that you can kind of what's the word for it? Superimpose these rhythms on top of it. So let's say I'm working 6/8, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Now it's 3/4 right there. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5. Now you can also break that down into 4. So you can have 4 over that. So that's 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. So 12/8 is 4/4. 6/8 is 2/4. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4. 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. See, now we're in 4. Now 6, 8. 3, 4 now. 1, 2, 3. Now the thing is, when you're in 4, 3, 4, to make this relative to your 6/8 thing, I would use triplets. Triplet, 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 triplet. It's the same thing, but the feel is different. It feels the same, but it is different. Triplet, 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 triplet. You even got a third note triplet, triplet. Or it's in. So I use a lot of these rhythms. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because, you know, the thing that we talked about with music is melody, harmony, rhythm, and form. There's a lot of stuff that I'll do when I'm creating stuff where, you know, I won't necessarily be sticking to a key center all the time, a diatonic key center. So if I have this key of C, all this stuff is in one key center, but I might shift. I might go. Right? And these rhythms that I was doing with the 6/8/3, that's something that enters a lot in this style that I use. And I use it for pop. So if I'm writing something, like a nice melody, Three, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. There it is. The Hemiola rhythm all over the place. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay? So I know that's a lot to digest, but it's just another example of, instead of following this thing where we learn that music is made up of melody, harmony, rhythm, and form, most of the time people follow the melody and harmony part and make rhythm just a part of that, and they try to fit that in. Essentially, I'm putting rhythm as an essential first important remedy to, you know, what I would consider bad music writing. So I'd much prefer to have good rhythmic stuff happening and pieces of music that I create, you know, and have it interesting. And the same thing with you know, the melody. You know, I do follow a key center, but what's to say you can't jump around? I just went in a lot of different directions. But it's melodic. Right? Okay, so that's it. Please hit the like button. You know, subscribe to my channel when it comes through on Facebook, my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. So I hope you got something from this. Thanks.